Hello, my name is Brianna Wetzler, and I am a first-year student here at Illinois State University. For my English 101 final project, I had the opportunity of interviewing my father, Dr. Christopher Wetzler. His undergraduate degree is in biology, which is what I'm attending ISU for. Now, let's go learn about chat in the optometry field. Please introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Christopher Wetzler. I'm an optometrist at Peoria Eye Professionals in Peoria, Illinois. I got my undergraduate degree at Bradley University in 1995 and my doctorate degree from Illinois College of Optometry in 2001.
All right, tell me about your undergraduate degree, how you went from ICC and then into Bradley, what kind of classes you took, and your credit load per semester.
Sure. So yeah, I started out, I'm from Peoria, so I started out taking classes at Illinois Central College in East Peoria. I was always a biology major, so I took a lot of, biology. The class I took there was zoology, which was a basic biology class. Took a lot of chemistry, both inorganic and organic, took physics. You needed all that for optometry school. Average course load, I was taking 16 to 18 hours a semester. Also took a mini-mester and some summer classes too.
And you had an on-campus job at both ICC and Bradley?
Just at ICC, I worked in the biology lab there. When I got to Bradley, it was, just kind of more biology classes. I took a botany class, genetics class, microbiology, immunology, one called limnology, and then an evolution class as well. While I was there, I was also taking math classes because I needed to take stats. So I found out that if I took one more math class, I could have a math minor. So I just grabbed one more math class, one called number theory, that let me get my math minor.
So once you obtained your undergraduate degree, did you head straight up to ICO or did you wait a few years?
No, I took 2 years off. Taking all those courses kind of burned me out of school, so I just wasn't ready to take on those course loads, because once you got to optometry school, it was 23 to 24 hour credit loads there. So I took a couple years off and just kind of worked. I worked in the optical field just to get a feel for it, and I really liked it. So then, yeah, after 2 years off, then I went off to optometry school.
So what did you do in those 2 years?
So mainly just worked in the optical field, got married, and then moved up to Chicago.
What was your life like up at Illinois College of Optometry?
It was a lot of work. Like I said, we were taking 23, 24 hour, we were on quarters up there. So that was our credit load. I think one quarter was light, so we had like 19 credit hours that we took, but a lot of labs, a lot of lectures. First 2 years, that's pretty much all we did were labs and lectures. Then third year, we started into clinical rotations. They weren't very heavy at that time. We were still doing mostly classes and labs. Fourth year was nothing but clinical rotation.
Nice. Did you have a job up there as well? Or?
Yeah, I kind of continued working in the optical field. I made eyeglasses at a Walmart around the corner from us, and just kind of kept rolling through the optical stuff.
And you were up there for 4 years, right?
Yes.
What is your most prominent memory of your time up there?
Just kind of the hustle and bustle of kind of big city stuff. So, just a lot of late nights, early mornings, trying to figure out how to avoid the traffic more than anything else. But we ate a lot of good restaurants, so that was always fun. And when I was a fourth year in school, one of the rotations I had was in Battle Creek, Michigan. So I'd leave Sunday night and then I'd come back Friday night. And we always went out to eat right after we got home. That was just kind of what we did. Checked out all the local restaurants, and it was good stuff.
Well, like you said, it took 4 years to get your doctorate. So was that like the normal timeline, or did you end up graduating earlier?
No, it's just normal timeline. Kind of the funny thing there is you don't really get to pick what classes you're taking. You're just told what classes you take, and it was all year round, 4 quarters. So yeah, we really, taking 23, 24 hours, there wasn't much chance to pick up hours and get out of there early. It was a 4-year program.
So explain your job application process. Did you only apply to one place, or did you apply to many places, or how did you go about that?
It was kind of it was a little different. It really wasn't an application kind of process. It was, let somebody know you're interested in their position. They have a lot of doctors and offices come through and kind of pass out information, and then you just contact them. So really not really so much of an application process, but just kind of getting the feelers out there. And they don't call it a resume when you get out of school. Now they call it a curriculum vitae because it sounds better in Latin, I guess, but it's basically the same thing. And you pass those out to everybody when you're meeting with them.
So once you met your boss, Dr. Verpa, was it pretty much you knew that's where you were going to go, or?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, I was wanting to come back to the Peoria area. That's where we were from. And that one was, kind of the best one out there. There was other options out there, but they just weren't what I was looking to do.
You also do a lot of continued education experiences. I remember a few times you leaving, and that was not fun for me. So, tell me about your continued education experiences. Like, how many you go on a year and what you learn.
Yeah, to keep our license, we have to do 30 continuing education hours every 2 years. 12 of them have to be tested. The other 18 don't, and there's other regulations that you can't take too much of this and too much of that. But mainly they have to be in mostly disease processes and diagnosis and management of those kind of things. So, they kind of spread them out. If you, they usually come in 6-hour blocks. So roughly you can get 4 of them and pick up, a couple hours at some of these meetings that we go to, and you can do 4 online. This time's a little different with COVID. We can take them all online. So none of them are technically tested, but to pass an online one, you got to take a test. So it's kind of weird how they say that's not tested.
So are all your continued education up in Chicago a bit?
No, they spread them all over the state. So most of them up in Chicago because that's where most of the people live. So, they're trying to reach as many as possible. But usually there's one, Peoria, Bloomington area. Sometimes Springfield has one. You can go further south, Mount Vernon, that kind of thing, if you want to go all the way down there. And then usually some around St. Louis. It's a little different because St. Louis has their own school, so most of them are in Missouri for that. But yeah, that's mostly, usually half of them in Chicago, half of them around here.
So when you go, do you learn new things, or is it more of just picking up what you learned in graduate school?
A little bit of both. There's all these regulations and things about what it has to talk about, so you get a lot of repeats. But there's always new technology that comes out and new equipment and that kind of thing. So you learn about all those things. New drugs enter the market, so we learn about those. And not just drugs for the eyes, but drugs for the body that also have a lot of side effects that we have to watch for, that kind of thing. So we pick up a lot of that information in our continuing education. So you actually learn something there. But a lot of it is repetitive. But if you can pick out the good stuff, you're nailing everything you need to.
So coming back to more recently, tell me about the study you helped on with contacts.
Sure. It was a study for an AccuView contact that was coming out. Actually, they had both come out. There's one called the AccuView One Day Moist Multifocal, one called the AccuView Oasis Multifocal. And they would already been approved, already been released, but they were trying to fine tune the fitting process of it. So the rep that we have asked if I'd be willing to help out with that. So mainly recruit patients, patients that are interested in wearing, contacts that, they have to help some help reading with them, fit them in the lenses, fill out a lot of information about what your process was of how you got to the end point of what you gave them a prescription for, and give the patient, get their information, what they think about it as well. So just a lot of numbers and that kind of thing to help them pinpoint it. So that lasted about 3 months, and I probably enlisted 17 or 18 patients for that.
So with going into education, both of our degrees are in biology, our undergraduate, but I'm more of an education based. I do have to take a lot of psychology for that. So when conducting research, there are a lot of rules that you may have to follow. So what were some rules that you had to follow? Like, informing the patient and what details you could tell them?
Yeah, mainly there wasn't it wasn't a, kind of a stringent double-blind study or anything like that. They already knew they were going to be wearing these contacts, and it was already on the market, so it wasn't like we had to, make sure it was safe for them to wear them. Those tests were already all done. But so mainly I had to tell them that, I was going to be giving them this, turn-in information. It wasn't going to label them or anything, so it didn't have their name on it. Nobody had any issue with that. And then kind of on their end too, they had no problem filling out their questionnaire. Mainly they got a gift card for filling it out, so they were happy to get that. So yeah, it wasn't kind of one of these stringent hard studies that you really have to follow a lot of protocol. There was some protocol as far as what we started out with. There was a website that we went to that you plugged in some numbers, and then you had to give them what the website said to give them first off, but then you did whatever you had to make it work from there.
So through ISU's English program, we do a process through chat. I'm not sure if Bryce and I have talked to you about that or not, but there are several different aspects to chat, and it's basically about like how a certain discourse community creates, shares, and produces different types of like media. So going back to the contacts, so how did your parents react, or what we would call receive, the idea of trying new contacts?
They were basically all of them are happy to try those out. They've come in with a complaint. You've offered them a solution for their complaint. A lot of them already know that they were kind of heading that direction. I've seen a lot of these patients for years, so I'm like, hey, next time you come in, we're going to have to talk about moving into a contact to help you out with some reading and that kind of thing. So it was easy, an easy move. There's always a little psychology involved with contact lenses. If you're upbeat about it, and oh, this is gonna be great for you, don't worry about it. If they don't work, we'll take care of it, this kind of thing. But I can't think of anybody that had a negative experience or anything with it.
So then there's also production, which is just as it seems, like how they are created and how they're made and all that. So what was different about these contacts from others?
Yeah, mainly they just have some reading power in them. Most contacts that college students are going to wear, they're all just one power throughout the whole lens. You put them in, you can see distance, you can read, you can do everything. There's only one power, it works. As you get older, that doesn't work as well. So now you need some help with the reading. So these lenses, they're designed to include some reading into them as well. Glasses, we call them a bifocal, but with contacts, they don't work the same way. So they incorporate this reading into the lens. So now you can read and you can still drive and everything with your contacts in.
It's like a 2-for-1.
Kind of, yeah.
So where did you get these contacts from? Like, how are they distributed?
Sure. We have a rep. Johnson & Johnson's the company that makes the AccuView lens. So we have a Johnson & Johnson rep. He brings them in. We have kind of these big drawers that they just bring in with all these different powers in them. Drop them off, and they're just trial lenses. Anybody who wears contacts has probably been given trial lenses while they're at the doctor's office. It's all the same thing. You just go pull them out, the powers that you want, and give them to the patient, make sure they fit on them, and make sure they can see, and then send them to try them out for a few days.
So throughout the study, like, what were some patterns that you saw? Like, were there any problems that patients commonly saw, or was there any like ecological boundaries on the contacts or how they were used?
No, I mean, most of the patients, they put them in, and you kind of, maybe err on the side of giving them a little too much reading power. These lenses didn't seem to do that. Like it's kind of an old fitting style that we used to have. So most of the time you put them in, whatever the website spit out at you, worked pretty well. Probably the most common thing was, people look at their cell phones. That's mostly how we communicate and read anything anymore. And they had a little harder time with that. So we know with any kind of digital media, we always usually have to give them a little extra boost. So that was probably the most common thing that we saw. And there was that was kind of the pattern we developed that helped with the fitting guide for this contact lens over time, was to kind of give that a little bit of a kick, especially if they use a lot of digital media. Ecologically, they're all recyclable, so everybody's contacts are recyclable.
It's really cool. That's actually really, really cool. So how many doctors did you work with throughout the study, or do you really know?
I'm not sure. there was a kind of a webinar thing we had to go to at first. There was 2 different times that were offered, and there was maybe 80 or 100 in probably each one of them. So maybe 200 doctors.
Were they all in like the Illinois area?
No, they were all over the place. Yeah.
Oh, that's really cool. Yeah. So did you communicate with these doctors, or like this would be what we call socialization?
Yeah, not during the study. It was just kind of an independent. Yeah. There was a lot of sharing in the original webinar of kind of people kind of getting a feel for what everybody knew before, and but more it was to get everybody on the same page, so nobody was off kind of doing their own wild independent study on something. They wanted this directed.
So you took data throughout this, right?
Mm-hmm, yep.
So how did you report this data?
Yeah, they once a week we got a email that we could click on. It was just linked to us. It was a secure email. Nobody else could click on this link and do anything. It had to be linked to the email we got. I couldn't forward it to somebody else and they could use it. But yeah, it was just a secure website. Clicked on it, everything popped up as far as what we had to fill out right on that, and that was kind of independent for each patient encounter. So every time we turned one in, then we got another email that had a new link on it to do another one.
So do you know what this data was used for?
It was a post-release just to help fine-tune the contact lens fitting process. It does 2 things. One, patients don't like to have to come back 50 times. So, if you can nail them all in 1 or 2 visits, they love that. So that's what they're really trying to do. Plus, it costs money for them to pass out these contacts. So if they can give us, to give out a pair or 2 of contacts to patients versus 10 pairs of contacts, it saves them money in the long run, which is good for the patients because then they don't have to spend as much on contacts because they're not having to make up that cost down the road.
So what is your favorite thing about being an optometrist?
Just kind of just helping people and, solving issues for people that come in. And it's really kind of cool when somebody really has an issue that is really bothering them, and especially if they're not real, keen to talk about it. They've kind of been dealing with it, and that's kind of a common thing. If you don't feel well, you don't want to let anybody else know you're not feeling well until you really don't feel well, and then you go seek out help for it. So when these people come in and you can help them, it may be something simple like, hey, I can't read, I need some help with that. You fix them with that. They got something stuck in their eye that they can't get out. They think they're going blind for some reason, but really they, just have something else going on that's more acute. We can fix the problem. That's really kind of the cool part, is just helping people out.
So do you have any advice for a student in high school thinking they want to get on the road towards something like an optometry degree?
Sure. I always tell everybody, nobody ever says they wishes they goofed off more in school. Everybody, whenever you talk, I shouldn't have done that. I should have, stretched myself out. Don't be afraid to try out these courses that just kind of seem out there, but really, kind of pique your interest. Give them a shot. The worst that's going to happen is you're not going to like it, or it's okay even, if you have to fail a class or 2 just to figure out what you're doing. Not that I recommend doing that, but, hey, if that's what happens and it pushes you in the right direction, give it a shot.
Do you have any closing ideas or thoughts?
Just kind of just go after what interests you. I was just watching this video the other day. It was about having these long-term goals and these long-term dreams. That's great, but sometimes you get a little too focused, way down the road. Kind of live in the moment a little bit. Something might catch your eyes. And some of these successful people really just don't have a long-term goal. They just go after all these short-term goals. Elon Musk, this kind of thing. He just comes up with something, he goes after that, and then changes his mind, does something else. He doesn't have a long-term stretch. Maybe he wants to go to Mars or something, but he's doing some cool stuff along the way.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Talking with my dad about his undergraduate experience and the type of media he produces within optometry was a fantastic experience that I believe brought us closer. Of the 7 chat terms, we discussed reception, production, distribution, ecology, and socialization. I was pleasantly shocked to hear that ecological-wise, the new contacts are recyclable. As someone seeking a profession in biology, it is always exciting to hear when products become recyclable. Another thing that shocked me was that the doctors helping with the study only communicated or socialized at the beginning of the study. I personally feel like it would be hard to reach a common goal without communicating with the people you are working with every once in a while at the least. Overall, this was a super fun assignment, and I'm so glad I took the route I did. Thank you for an amazing semester.